Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you, depending on where you are joining us in the world. Thank you very much for taking the time to attend our webinar today in conversation with Mari Sako relating to the Oxford Executive Diploma in Global Business. My name is Joe Parton, Business Development Executive at the Side Business School. I have the privilege of helping to oversee recruitment for this diploma in global business. I'd like to welcome all of you to this webinar from wherever you're joining us from. I know that a few of you joining today will have already received an offer to join our next class in 2024. So many congratulations if that's you. Others will be partway through an application. Others still perhaps in the early stages of considering studying at Oxford Side. But today we have the wonderful opportunity to speak with Professor Mari Sako, the Academic Director of the Oxford Diploma in Global Business, and hear her perspectives on what makes this course unique and how it can deliver impact to executives, professionals, entrepreneurs. There is the chance for you to add your own questions to the discussion, and I'll do my best to work them into the conversation. You'll see the Q&A function. You should be able to ask questions as the session goes on. But while we wait for Professor Sako to join, I'm just going to run through a few very brief slides to give an overview of this program for anyone who is quite new to the Diploma in Global Business. So very briefly, this is a one-year part-time course based at Oxford Side Business School, around 4 in-person modules. So you'll be traveling to Oxford on 4 occasions throughout the year. It's a master's level qualification, so although not a full degree, it will award a master's level postgraduate diploma. And we have 1 intake per year, with the next intake starting on the 24th of January next year. We're expecting a class of around 40 students. This is the makeup of what the year will look like. Starting in January, the modules are clearly labelled there: January, April, June, and October. That's when you'll be attending in Oxford. In between, you can expect asynchronous study of 5 to 8 hours per week, and there is an assessment following each assignment. The final assessment, you'll notice there on the right-hand side, the final integrative assignment is 6,000 words. You have 12 weeks to complete this, and on completion of that assignment, you've completed the diploma, and then you can hopefully look forward to completing the course and graduating at a celebration in 2025. This is a typical class profile. I can tell you that of the applications we've received already, we're already exceeding 20 nationalities and 16 employment sectors with an average age of 40, and we've already exceeded 400 years of combined work experience of the existing applicants, which we're very happy with. I'm delighted that Professor Sako has joined. So good afternoon to you. Thank you very much for taking the time. I'm going to stop sharing the screen while we go through the discussion. And we're going to jump straight into the discussion, if that's okay. So this diploma in global business, you have been the academic director since its inception back in 2011. So my first question is, what were your reasons for launching this diploma, and what did you see as its primary function back then?
Thank you, Joe. I just want to make sure I can be heard. Is the volume okay? Yeah, great. Okay, yes. So yeah, thanks for that question. And I have been, as Joe said, the academic director since its inception. So I had quite a bit of a hand in crafting it at the beginning. And I thought that at the time, and this is like 12 years ago, the primary function was to make future and current global business leaders more effective in the world of both business, but also civil society and public life as well. And that ambition, I think, was satisfied by the fact that we actually sought out and was successful in getting participants from different, not just industrial sectors. So we had financial services, we had manufacturing, we had startup community, and so on, but also some international financial institutions, as well as some government and like federal or European Union type government institutions, as well as some, not a lot, but some NGOs as well. And that conversation that could happen through the tri-sector setting with huge diversity in backgrounds, nationality included, we thought would actually be a good setting for having a truly global conversation. And that's actually easier said than done. But we were lucky enough, I think, to get the initial cohort that hailed, again, from 20 plus countries. And we started that way.
Fantastic. It's obviously been a success because it's still being offered over a decade later, but by the nature of the topic global business, the amount of changes and shifts in this topic, in this area, how has the diploma program adapted and evolved over time to stay at the forefront of these trends and these innovations occurring at a global level?
Sure. So I think the fundamental kind of architecture of the program hasn't changed much. The pedagogy hasn't changed much. And the content in terms of what we want to convey at the broad high level haven't changed. So the 4 modules called global strategy, risk and reputation, corporate diplomacy, and business in emerging markets, they're still there as well. But within each of those modules, I think what has really impacted how we think about the content and how we teach it is the big shift in the global climate of doing business. So I think 12 years ago, it's fair to say that everybody believed that, as Thomas Friedman wrote, the world is flat, or that it's becoming flatter and flatter, and then that's going to be a trend that's going to continue for some time to come. And we found it more challenging to make students notice that the world is actually quite bumpy and that different parts of the world are different. Now it's the reverse, right? So I think that most people are very aware of the fact that different parts of the world are very different. There are lots of issues, including COVID, that actually make crossing borders a very significant and important decision that you have to make. Some borders can't be crossed or difficult to cross. And so the content of what we teach, I think, is very much not so much about, what are the trends in globalization and what can businesses do to take advantage of it. It's more about what are some of the risks that come from a reverse trend in globalization, including geopolitics, including some of the big issues like climate change that would impact on doing business in different parts of the world. So that's a slight difference in how we kind of view our teaching content.
Thank you very much. I'm sure many people on the call will be aware this is one of 5 executive diplomas offered by the Saïd Business School. I wonder what separates or differentiates the Global Business Diploma from the others, not only in terms of its content, but perhaps in terms of why someone would choose this diploma.
Right. So I think you're asking potentially 2 separate questions, which is one is, how is this particular diploma different from other diplomas that we offer? And then, how is this program different from similar programs offered by different institutions? So on the first one, I guess I actually do teach on at least one other diploma as well. And so I'm familiar with this one that I direct. We basically do a lot more on challenges of doing business in different parts of the world, global business. So that means that we have the strategy fundamentals for sure. But if we address issues like innovation, it's very much about how innovation is done in different parts of the world as well. In relation to the second part, which is, how is this diploma with this content, it's international business, different from other parts of other types of courses which are on offer by, if you like, our competitors, competitor institutions, then I would say that we were kind of ahead of the game in 12 years ago, really focusing and taking it seriously, the notion that business leaders need to know not just about the competitive business environment, but what we call the non-market environment, where politics, geopolitics, regulators, civil society demands, and other things happen. And so it's become actually, less and less difficult to persuade business leaders that that's what they need to know. But that's basically what we started doing. And that content, I don't think, was on offer in many other programs. Maybe other programs have started doing that. But I would claim that we were a kind of first mover in that.
Fantastic. Often the Oxford way, being ahead of the curve. We pride ourselves on this. So moving to the Oxford focus of this program, the Oxford Diploma in Global Business. Of course, Oxford is known for research excellence and world-class teaching. So can you spend a bit of time talking about the faculty that teach on this program and why they're an important element of what makes this program a success?
Yeah, sure. So I'm lucky enough to be surrounded by some colleagues immediately within my group, the International Business Group, and also some guest instructors some of whom are ex-colleagues actually, as well, who have moved to other parts of the world. But they bring in research-based rigor into the classroom by having a particular academic discipline. In many cases, either economics or political science. And also specific regional expertise. So one is a China specialist, another is a Latin American specialist, another is an India specialist, and so on and so forth. And then also in cases where we do some company-based case, we also have sector expertise as well. So I used to have an expertise in automotive, as does another colleague. We have also, resource-based mining and education and other public sector, and a variety of different sectoral expertise as well. So that's one thing we do. I think it's also fair to say that we draw on faculty not just from the business school, but from other parts of Oxford. And I guess that's part of the Oxford experience, that we have a very fuzzy boundary between what is taught in the business school and what's outside. And so we already have an in-house political science expertise anyway. So we don't need to bring too many of those. But in the past, we have invited people from definitely, anthropology to understand, for example, about national culture, political theorists who actually know a lot about some of the classical texts around leadership and so on and so forth. So hopefully this is slightly quirky sometimes, but also really an in-depth understanding of some of the phenomena like leadership, like risk and reputation, which are grounded in academic discipline and research.
Thank you very much. Just a reminder for anyone that might have joined recently, there is the opportunity for you to submit your questions that we can work into the discussion. You can use the Q&A function of the call to do that. You mentioned the faculty within the business school in the wider Oxford network, but on this program, you also invite a number of industry experts and guest speakers to attend some of the module sessions. Could you talk about some of those and how they add to the experience as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's essential to have guests from the practice world, as well as sometimes policy world as well. There's obviously limited things you can do in a classroom situation, but what those guest speakers do is to really bring to life some of the issues. We as academics tend to give you frameworks and simplify so that you can understand the world and diagnose it. What the guest speakers tend to do is to tell us actually it's not as simple as that. It's a lot more complicated. And I think you need to have both insights to understand the phenomena with just the essential details and frameworks in mind, and then to really put that into practice, but really hearing from people who have experienced really complex situations where things just didn't go in the way that they wanted to, and they can share all stories, of course, but also really considered insights into how people can learn from the mistakes that people make in the past as well. So we have guest speakers who are, in one case, it's a protagonist in the case that we'll study. We have speakers who have, just experiences in very different parts of the world, including Africa and Latin America. So I think that it's a great way of, just kind of picking their brain, but also networking with them. And they tend to love repeat interaction because I think they get something out of it as well. So I know that the class is, sometimes what kind of people come onto the program, but I'm just amazed how, people like Joe and his predecessor have been able to just coalesce and assemble a class that has an amazing variety of experiences and networking opportunities that provides.
And if I'm not mistaken, a number of guest speakers have actually been former students of the diploma who've been invited back to speak. So for any prospective applicants, this is something you can aim for yourselves in the future. You started to answer a question that's been submitted. It's a very good question from one of the attendees. What is your typical student? Where do most students come from? I would like to rephrase this question slightly. I hope this person doesn't mind. Who are you expecting to see in the class in 2024?
So I think, as we said already, variety. But to dig deeper, I think variety with so typically people will be sort of mid-career who may already be a CEO, but have some great ambitions to do beyond anything like being a CEO of a company. We also have, a handful of sometimes startup co-founders that, are looking to expand into global markets. We also have, people who are functional experts in a particular large global corporation, either that is to do with finance function or a legal function or an HR function or supply chain function. And they may want to diversify beyond their, functional expertise to become a general management way to the regional manager or even CEO. So it's varied. And I've already said that there are a few from the nonprofit sector as well as from the public government sector as well. And most people, in my view, are actually looking for an opportunity, of course, to firstly kind of step back a little bit from day-to-day work pressure to reflect on what they've done in terms of their personal effectiveness and to hone their skills in that, but also to think about the next steps in their career, whether it's just straight promotion or a lateral move or doing something completely different.
Thank you very much. There is, as you've mentioned, variety, diversity in the class. I've spoken recently with prospective applicants who are working in a senior role for a small and medium enterprise. Perhaps they wonder, is the impact for them going to be the same as somebody who's working for a global, big multinational company? So how does the program impact people in different sized companies?
I think it's not so much the size. I think it's more the kind of age of the organization. So I think that the ambition of somebody who works for a global company that's been in existence for over 100 years probably will be quite different from a founder of a venture that they've actually created themselves. One is obviously big and one's obviously small, but I think the reason why the learning points might be different is because in the large organization, I guess, and well established, there are processes and structures that you got to comply with. So you got to work within that structure and constraints sometimes as well. Whereas a newer, venture that you created, I think there's a huge amount of scope for crafting it from scratch or actually changing it drastically in your own image. And I think that gives a very different mindset. But I think it's the conversation also between these two different types with different ambitions that make the classroom discussion rich, but also I think mutual conversation, mutual support, and sometimes mentoring opportunities as well. So some people are much more senior than others in a particular class, and I've seen that in the previous cohorts without any kind of prompting. There's definitely formal and sometimes quite formal mentoring relationship that actually develops. Also some kind of joint business collaboration opportunities so that they actually collaborate and create something new that they're going to work on. So those projects also are very exciting for some people who are looking for that kind of stuff.
Thank you. Moving from the cohort to the logistics of the delivery of this program. So it's a part-time course with a small but intense in-person element in these 4 modules, and then asynchronous study outside of that. How do you feel that the format of the program adds to the effectiveness?
So it is intensive. Most people, although not all, are full-time engaged. So first thing to say is that you may already have it, but time management. I think most people have to really decide, when to do the course material readings and assessments. Most people are very good at it too. But apart from that, the actual structure of the diploma, the fact that it's 4 separate modules, that means that you actually come together 4 times, and instead of a 1 week long program somewhere else where you get a certificate at the end of the 1 week, where there's no repeat. I think we have the advantage of bringing students together 4 times, and the first module might feel like first day at school that you don't really know many people. Second module, you get to know them. By third module, everybody's really gelling and helping each other and actually learning from each other as much as from the instructor. And the fourth, gosh, it's already over, regret kind of feeling. But anyway, I think the repeat modules, the fact that there are 4 makes for a much richer learning experience, in my view. That's long lasting. And students tend to very much keep in touch afterwards. Typically, there's a very active WhatsApp group, as you know, Joe, and they don't die with graduation. They just seem to continue for a very long time after that as well, which is a kind of real social asset that you take away with you after graduation.
There is a former student of this course, and they recently wrote a blog, and it was entitled "There is no life after Oxford," as in it's not that you will always take Oxford with you wherever you go. So in terms of Oxford, I'm sure many people have studied at numerous different business schools, and many things about this program will look similar to them. But one thing that's very unique is the Oxford brand, our association with this university. So what does that mean to you, Oxford, and why does that differentiate this program?
I think I'm actually an Oxford graduate, so I probably tend to take it for granted, but teaching on this program and directing it actually made me attempt to articulate the answer to your question, which I think is a good aspect, because taking for granted, you can't explain to other people. And what in effect it is, I mean, Oxford is a brand, and if you say you've done something from Oxford, people might take you seriously, or they might be in awe of what you might say, either way. But you will be heard for sure. But as everybody says, in a privileged situation, I think with privilege comes duty and obligation. And so I would say that what we're trying to do is to raise the bar with our teaching, so that morally and otherwise, that individuals who come through the program take on the challenge of being a leader in whatever sphere of life you want to be a leader. It could be large, it could be small, it doesn't really matter. And that you execute your responsibility in the right way for the business and society that you're part of, if that makes sense.
Yes, I think so. So there's a question that's come in. It goes back to what we were talking about a moment ago. Are there any projects where students analyze real companies and essentially work as a consultant? You mentioned some case studies earlier. Perhaps you could go into some more detail about those.
Consultant on as part of your own work maybe, but what we do for sure is to choose some companies as a way of analyzing and bringing up specific issues with a view to finding solutions. So we carefully choose what those companies are. Some are big, some are small, some are American, some are non-American, all that kind of stuff. But in terms of practical insights into what you yourself are doing, or what you yourself might want to consult on, obviously the best opportunity for that is just to think of the topic for your final integrative assignment, which Joe mentioned. And that's really an opportunity. It's totally your call as to what you write about and how you go about executing that particular piece of writing. And that's where most people choose a particular topic that they're interested in, that they want to get dig deeper, or be very, very practical and write something that might look like a consulting report, that could be at a sectoral level or at a company level. Like, why is it that ESG investing in a particular area is not working as well as it should do, and what are the solutions that could happen? Or it could be that, the company that I work for entered India and then withdrew, but wants to re-enter again. What is it that we need to do better this time around?
Okay, thank you. I'm aware we're in the middle of a busy module teaching week, so I hope, do you have time for just a couple more questions? Thank you. One thing that might, dare I say, intimidate potential applicants is, you mentioned one there, the assessments, the final integrative assignment and the assessments after each module. So how important is the assessment part of this program? And should students be scared, relaxed? Can you put their minds at ease? Some applicants may have been a long time since they did formal education.
Yeah. So we hear students talk a lot about assessment at the beginning, because most people haven't sat an exam for, in some cases, decades. And so it might appear scary, but I think in the end, most students appreciate that a formal assessment of that sort is really helpful to them in terms of forcing people to review the material that they've learned, to be able to kind of rethink and rejig what they've learned, but what they need to know more. So, if you don't get assessed, then you kind of sit in the classroom, get the material, absorb it then, but then just put it aside, and you don't have to go back to the material. So we have 4 modules, and one of the things that we want students to do is to kind of integrate learnings from across the modules as well. So I think pedagogically, it's meant to let you have an opportunity to review the material. Study groups, where small groups of students get together to debate the issue, which is, I think, really good fun as a way of preparing for the assessment. And then, to really sort of retain that memory, so that when it comes to application at your own workplace, it will be really fresh in your head as well. So, nothing is more pleasing than some past students saying, "Oh, I actually made a recent proposal to the board, and used the way that you taught us to think, and it actually got some resonance from the chair of the board, and we got through the proposal," that kind of stuff. So yeah, it works, I hope.
Brilliant. There, you've mentioned people from various different private sectors and also public non-profits. There will be some applicants who would describe themselves as an entrepreneur. And so how important is it to have an entrepreneurial presence in the classroom?
There's always 1 or 2. I mean, not a huge number. I think most entrepreneurs are very busy. So you're brave if any of you who is a recent startup founder who's thinking about doing a program of this sort, but you're not going to be the first one. There are a few. And again, in the most straightforward cases, the reason for coming onto the program, I think, is that they want to address global markets. And so global markets, even if you're in a sector like digital, artificial intelligence or whatever, they're countries where governments regulate things in a different way. And you do need to navigate that regulatory environment at the cross-national level. So I hope that this particular program would be helpful for thinking about that, particularly if you're in a sector that's where regulation is very important, like healthcare. But even in tech, right? I mean, cybersecurity, where you hold the data, all that, both the formal and the informal rules are ever changing, and will definitely, that you have frameworks and ways of thinking about how to navigate the current situation, but also how to anticipate the future using scenarios.
Thank you. We're drawing to the close of the Q&A session. Any last minute questions, please submit them now. there's a number of people I know on the program that are considering making an application, and they're deciding whether this would be a viable option for them and the impact it would have. So how would you advise someone to make up their mind about whether this is the right program for them at this point in their career? And if I may ask, what tips do you have for them to ace their application and make sure that that comes across well in their application?
Wow, that's a big question. I would probably say, in a kind of slightly counterintuitive way, that there's never the right moment. So, if you feel that you want to do this, and possibly now or later, make it now. I know that, COVID and other things have made people's mindset into, let's wait and see sort of mindset. But yeah, act, I would say. Yeah. That's one thing. And then in terms of application, I guess obviously we're looking for certain things, but some of the things that you can do in terms of pitching why you want to do the program, articulating that very clearly, whether it's to do with career advancement or something that you want to learn as a new set of skills, or just anything around that would be very helpful. So some people do that in the essays. Other people have other forum to be able to pitch that as well. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And then after the course, we've had a couple of questions asking about the alumni network. There is an alumni network, the OBA, the Oxford Business Alumni Network. Can you provide a brief insight into the continued lasting impact that this program has through the alumni networks at the Side Business School?
Oh, yeah. So precursor to that, I already mentioned the WhatsApp group. That's going to be continuing well beyond graduation. So that's your sort of immediate post program alumni activities. But people are based in different parts of the world. So I think that some diploma graduates tend to become very active members in a particular city, like Dubai or Singapore, or a particular country where they can interact not just with the diploma students, and there are kind of interaction across different diplomas. Cohorts may come into Oxford at the same time, so there's networking opportunities there anyway. But beyond that, with students that have graduated from different departments or different programs within the business school. So I think beyond graduation, alumni network is not formally like a kind of social network or a mentoring and mentee kind of relationship, but I think that some people really make use of the resource in a really great way. Have lectures and events and virtual and physical things that happen that would really enhance your ambition and appetite to continue to learn and continue to hone your skills. And so unless you want to do multiple diplomas, which some people have done, but most people just stay at one diploma and then continue their self-learning through the alumni network in part.
Okay, thank you. And a final question, which I will submit, a brief word on the comparison between the Executive Diploma and the Executive MBA. Why do you think someone would choose to study this diploma instead of the Executive MBA?
So as some of you might know, and Joe can tell you more, that all the diplomas are feeders into the Executive MBA. I also used to teach on the Executive MBA as well. The difference is that diplomas tend to be less intense and shorter. So you're over in 1 year, and the frequency with which you want to come to Oxford is, once every 2 or 3 months. Executive MBA, on the other hand, lasts 2 years, and you got to basically double the speed or the frequency with which you have to be in Oxford as well. So it's in part, the content's very similar in some sense. The level of and the rigor of pedagogy is identical in my view. So depending on the stage in the career and your kind of personal work-life balance included, what you want to think of is, if you want to go straight into the Executive MBA, you should be able to actually accommodate all the time that is necessary to devote to the program. And so I think it's fair to say that with a diploma, most people enter diploma, and some of them think of it as a taster into the Executive MBA program.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Professor Sako, I'm aware you have an afternoon of teaching ahead of you here in Oxford for one of our other diplomas. So I'm going to end the formal Q&A with you there. I'm incredibly grateful for your time and for all the information that you've given to all of the attendees. The event will continue, so please don't go anywhere if you're attending. But Professor Sako, thank you very much. And I hope you have a very productive afternoon of teaching.
Thank you. Pleasure. And hope to see some of you actually in the classroom. Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay, so if everyone else could stay online, because I will be going through just some details, answering a couple of other questions. So we ended on this slide before Professor Sako started the conversation. I just want to focus very briefly on these 4 key profiles. If you're somebody who's considering whether this is the right program for you, then perhaps think whether you fit into one of these key profiles. Are you a career mover, somebody who's looking to disrupt, change their career, perhaps even physically move to a different part of the world? Are you a career advancer, perhaps in the first decade or 2 of your career, looking to achieve that position of leadership? Perhaps you're a career reflector, somebody who's very experienced, maybe several decades into a successful career. You're looking to reflect back and sharpen your toolkit for the next stage. And we mentioned it already. Are you an entrepreneur? You will have a valuable voice in the class. It may be that you're in one or multiple of these profiles, but hopefully that will help you to decide whether this is the right course for you. So this is very important. The start of the next course, January 2024, is not that far away. We are accepting applications and it's quite straightforward applying. Mari gave many reasons why you should apply and also how to ace your application. So what are you waiting for? This is what you'll need. You need the academic transcripts for all your full-time degree level qualifications, an updated CV. You'll need to verify your English language level if you're non-UK based or non-UK national. And the good news is that we do not require a GMAT or a GRE test score for this diploma. We'll also ask you to answer 2 essay questions. One is around the reasons you'd like to attend the diploma, the benefits it will have to you. The other is around an achievement in your current role and the reason why you took that role. So we're looking for you to tell us, what are you bringing into the classroom and what will you be taking away? We'll also ask you to nominate people to provide a reference. We require a minimum of 2 references and at least 1 should be a professional reference. And then in terms of entry requirements, you'd ideally need over 5 years of relevant experience. That means management, leadership, or in a global setting, and be educated to at least degree level. Applications are submitted online, and it's a very straightforward process. There's only one application stage. So once you've submitted your initial application, you should hear back within 4 weeks from the admissions committee. A couple of people have asked about scholarships, financial aid. There are a limited number of scholarships available each year. We offer a women's scholarship for female applicants and a director's award for anyone who will enhance the diversity of the class. We also offer a Ruley scholarship and a selected number of alumni scholarships if you've studied at the Side Business School before. The next application round closes very soon, Monday, the 25th of September. So less than 2 weeks. This is also the final deadline for those scholarship opportunities. So if you haven't yet started your application, I would encourage you to do so this afternoon, ideally, but certainly over the next few days. And myself and my colleague Magda, who's also on the call, are both on hand to support you through the application process. So some of the steps people take, one is they download a brochure. The other is to submit your CV and either myself or Magda will review it and advise on your suitability. But we'd love to speak to you directly and learn more about your experience, the reasons why you'd like to attend this diploma, and then guide you through the application process. So there are our contact details. Please get in touch with us today. I'll leave this slide up so that you can have a look. And I'm just going to have a look now for some more questions. Magda, thank you very much for your assistance typing some answers to many people. We have a couple of minutes. If you do have any other questions, please put them into the chat and that would be very helpful. This event, it has been recorded. And so if you missed any part of it, I'll make sure to circulate the recording to everyone that registered so you can catch up. There are no other questions coming into the chat at the moment. In fact, one about course fee payments. So I'll address that very quickly. So once you've applied, and I encourage you to apply as soon as possible because applications are reviewed on a rolling basis. Should you receive an offer, you can accept that offer with a deposit payment equal to 15% of the course fees. That accepts your offer, then you have until the start of the program, the 24th of January, to make the outstanding fee balance payment. So that's what it would look like should your application be successful. Another few seconds, if anyone has any questions, please put them into the Q&A function. But otherwise, here are our contact details. I hope you're all preparing emails to Magda and I. We would love you to join this class and to enhance its diversity and to take part in an Oxford side diploma. I'm just waiting for any other questions. Sorry, yeah, someone just wants to clarify that. So yeah, the total course fees this year, £30,890. 30,890. Those are the total fees, regardless. They're the same for every applicant. The deposit is equal to 15%, of those course fees. So in the region of £4,500, and that's what you pay to confirm your offer should you receive one. So hopefully that's all clear now. Okay. So with that, I'd like to thank everyone for attending today's call. Whether you are recently interested in the Diploma in Global Business or whether you've already applied and received an offer, we hope that that has been a very useful session for you, as we've heard from Professor Sako. A question coming in, thank you very much, about the scholarships. So you will need to apply by the 25th of September, and the decision is made in early November, and successful recipients will be informed in early November. And with that, I'll draw the session to an end. Thank you very much for joining. Your next step should definitely be starting an application or contacting Magda or myself to speak further. But from a very sunny Oxford afternoon to wherever you are in the world, wishing you a very pleasant afternoon or evening, and look forward to speaking to you again soon. Thank you for joining. Goodbye.